Hello. I just wanted to respond to kind of what's going on in the situation. Basically, I think Christians aren't used to waiting on God. And if you look at some of the timetables in the Bible, from the time Adam and Eve sinned till the time that Jesus came, look at all the struggles that happened in between that time. From the rise and fall of Israel to finally, even when Jesus came, then it looked like he wasn't the Messiah as far as the king. Israel thought he was going to be the king and he was going to rule on the earth. And it very well could have been. If they would have accepted Jesus at that time, who knows? The reign of Christ might have begun. But one thing that you look in the Bible, it takes time. From the time Adam and Eve sinned to the time where Jesus brought the resurrection of really the spirit and the body, because the born again spirit experiences the spirit, and then the manifestation of the body is when the body is resurrected. So it's a reversal of not only spiritual death but physical death. And if you look at the timeline in which that took a long time. It was like 6,000 years. So, till Jesus came, I mean, it was at least, 4,000 years or whatever? So, God gets done what he does. Now, what stops God getting done what he's going to get done? Because there is a difference between God's plan and what actually happens on the earth. Now, God's will. That's why the biggest prayer that Christians pray is, "Thy will be done on earth, as it is in heaven." So that very phrase, that very word, that very fact is what keeps God's will from manifesting on the earth. Is number one, for us praying, and then the other thing is for us being the embodiment of Christ. And what is the embodiment of Christ? The embodiment of Christ is being the bride of the Word. Because Jesus is the Word, and we're supposed to be the bride of the Word. Now, in Genesis, we were the bride of Satan's Word. And I just had a dream right before I woke up today. I just woke up. And God showed me there's even more to that than what even begins to meet the eye. Showed me a brand new revelation, something I never saw before. And I don't have time to go into that dream because it's very deep. It was like watching a Hollywood movie. And I'll just give you a little preview of the dream. But the dream, when I was dreaming, I thought I was watching a movie. I thought I was watching a movie made in Hollywood about these super characters that had these superpowers. One of the superpowers that one of the super characters had in my dream was the ability to see into the future. And prophets see in part. Paul says we see in part. So in this dream there was a prophet, And he was supposed to be a bodyguard in this dream I had. And he was going to be a bodyguard for this big leader. And then the dream is showed that his spiritual gifts were strong, but it wasn't of the level of the ones that were actually protecting this person they were protecting. But their gifts were the gift that this person had was very powerful. It was like a superhero gift. They were literally a superhero. But then they showed that there was another level of superhero that went beyond this. There was another level. And as I woke up, I was thinking about it was either Elijah or Elisha, of how he said to the servant who couldn't see all the angels, he said, Lord, open his eyes. And when he opened his eyes, he could see all the angels that were around all the enemy. And kind of this revelation of this dream was showing the different levels of gifted, I guess you could say gifted people. And that there's different levels. And I guess that level of whoever that was, I can't even remember the story. It was either, I think it was Elisha, but I don't remember. But that shows you a level of gifting. For example, Elijah was the one that was Jesus, was in the Mount of Transfiguration. Elijah was one of those. And that shows you how powerful his gifting is. His gifting was powerful enough to move any mountains. And that's what we're confronting here is mountains, right? Mountains from the enemy that is trying to block the will and flow of God, basically. So there's levels of faith. So really what this is all about, the word that comes is there's nothing wrong with the word. But the word is seeking a bride. Because we're the bride of Christ, right? So the word is seeking a bride. And if you know anything about the bride that it's seeking a holy, spotless bride. That means it's seeking a bride that will stand firm no matter what things look like. So the way that we manifest God's will in this earth is to be the birthing, the bride of Christ, and to birth what? What are we birthing? His word. What did we birth in Genesis? We birthed Satan's word. What did that bring? Death and a curse. So for God's will, which is heaven on earth, and his will on earth to be birthed, he's got to have a bride. He's got to have a place to birth it. So just because certain people are falling away on these prophetic things isn't a reflection of the prophets. It could be a testing of the Lord. Do you understand it? When he tested Job through extreme peril, through hopelessness, through agony, through what looked like defeat. But the testing was to purify his bride. So those that hold on to this the word of God, because if God gives you a word, there's nothing wrong with his word. His word is flawless. His word is spotless. So if God gives you a word, there's nothing wrong with the word. Now what can be corrupted is the bride. If the bride aborts the word. And a lot of Christians out there are weak in faith. And if it didn't come from them, well, so all that's going on right now is just God's looking for brides that will birth His word, that will hang on no matter, that will wait a little bit. I mean, it took 6,000 years before Jesus to come after the original sin, so hang on a little bit. It took 400 years to get them out of Egypt, right? And this country just had 400 years this November 11th when we landed on Plymouth Rock. It was 400 years. So that 400 kind of represents a time of birthing for this country, I believe. So all I can say is hang on.